On behalf of RBCS, RBCS Australia, RBCS New Zealand, and Software TestWorks, we welcome everyone today to this webinar on testing return on investment. I'm Rex Black, president of RBCS, a worldwide testing and quality assurance firm serving clients ranging from small startups to Fortune 20 global enterprises. Since 1994, RBCS has been both a pioneer and leader in quality hardware and software testing. RBCS has offices in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and Sri Lanka with partners around the world. We deliver insight and confidence to our clients, helping them get quality software and hardware products to market on time and with measurable return on investment. RBCS has a team of international consultants that deliver customized training, consulting, and outsourcing services for companies that are looking to improve their test and quality assurance practices. RBCS has helped hundreds of companies reduce development and support costs while assuring the best quality products are delivered to customers. I'm the author of Pragmatic Software Testing, Advanced Software Testing Volumes 1 and 2, Foundations of Software Testing, Critical Testing Processes, and Managing the Testing Process. I hold a degree in Computer Science and Engineering from UCLA. I'm also past president of the International Software Testing Qualifications Board and the American Software Testing Qualifications Board. Before we start the presentation, some housekeeping notes. You might have heard of Tropical Storm Hermine or Hermina, however you want to pronounce it. I haven't just heard of it, I'm in the middle of it. And that noise that you hear in the background is the sound of rain hitting our office windows at about 35 miles an hour. Since our internet connection and our power lines are suspended from poles, there is some possibility that the pole might go over or the line might be blown down, in which case this webinar will abruptly come to an end. If that were to happen, we will schedule a rerun of it some convenient time in the future. There will also be an evening presentation of this as well, evening U.S. time, and it's possible that that will run if there is a power failure or internet connectivity failure, but that presumes that the power and internet people can get the connections fixed between now and then, which is probably dubious. So apologies in advance if all of a sudden you stop hearing anything and the webinar stops happening. That's blame Hermina or Hermine or whatever the name is, the tropical storm. Now, assuming that we do keep things up and running, if you have any questions during the course of the webinar, please feel free to submit them throughout the presentation via your webinar interface. There's a place for asking questions. You don't need to ask for presentation copies. The presentation is on the web at www.rbcs-us.com. I believe it's on the digital library page. If you are having problems with either the audio or visual components of this webinar, please contact GoToWebinar support. And if for whatever reason you cannot get to the webinar online, or if you're dealing with an unreliable connection, just download the slides, the basic library, sorry, not digital library. Download the slides from the basic library at www.rbcs-us.com. Use the telephone to connect, not voice over IP. And if you try to connect and there's still no sound on the telephone, then that means that we've been the victim of the tropical storm. Okay, so here we go. Today's presentation is on return on the testing investment. So in our assessment and consulting work with clients, I often ask them, what's the business case for testing? And while people pretty much uniformly agree that testing is necessary and does serve an essential business function, people often have a great deal of trouble measuring the business value, and thus they can't articulate exactly what testing contributes. Being in charge of a function with an unmeasured and often misunderstood connection to business value is not a good place to be at any time, and especially during a recession. So this webinar will help you understand how to measure the business value of testing. So one of the first things to remember about testing is that you are not a cost center. You are a savings center. This has been pretty well established over years. There's if you look at Quality is Free, Phil Crosby's book, where he's saying that economic benefit of quality always exceeds costs. Duran and Greena explained something called cost of quality in their quality control handbook, and I will explain to you how that works when we get to that point in the presentation. Not terribly complicated. It's a very well-established technique. Does this hold for software? Yeah, there was a paper back a number of years ago evaluating the cost of software quality that showed that cost of quality does indeed apply to software. You have Campanella in his book Principles of Quality Cost that has a case study of Raytheon Electronic Systems Group. And we always look at this as part of our assessments, and to date we have not found a testing team that costs more money than it saves. It always saves more money than it costs. So testing has a positive return on investment, and it is one that can be quantified. So let's look at how. Now, there are 4 ways that testing can save money. Now, I say can because it is important that you be effective and efficient. It's theoretically possible that the testing team is not saving money if it's very ineffective or very inefficient. But if it is operating effectively and efficiently, then it's going to save money in one or more of the following 4 ways. Either due to finding bugs that get fixed or preventing bugs, finding bugs that don't get fixed but are then known problems that can be managed around, running tests that mitigate risk. There's a risk mitigation value to testing, and some of those risks are potentially quite expensive, and providing information, timely, accurate, and credible information that helps project team guide the project to success. So those are 4 ways that testing saves money, and notice that they are connected to typical objectives of testing. And this is something else to consider. It's good to have well-articulated testing objectives and then be able to tie quantifiable business value to those objectives and then quantify it. So let's look at how you would do that in each of these 4 cases. So we'll start with the ever-popular cost of quality model, sometimes referred to as cost of poor quality. Basically, this is the mathematics behind the often repeated assertion that the cost of a defect tends to escalate the longer it's in the system. Now, the way that you can do this is cost of quality is broken down into 2 types of costs, costs of conformance and costs of non-conformance. So conformance costs can then further be broken down into 2 groups of costs. One is what's called cost of detection, which includes the costs of testing, at least that testing which that you would have to spend on testing whether you found any bugs or not. And it'll get a little more clear as I go along here. Cost of conformance also includes the costs of prevention, true quality assurance. So this is like achieving a certain level of CMMI maturity would be an example of that. Not testing activities. Testing is considered defect detection. Now, non-conformance costs can also be broken down into 2 groups, and basically that's the cost of internal failure, the costs associated with problems that we find prior to release, and the cost of external failure, which would be the costs associated with problems found by customers and users after release. And obviously, non-conformance costs and internal costs include fixing the bugs and retesting. For external costs, it not only includes fixing bugs and retesting, but also things like less tangible things like dealing with angry customers, dealing with damage to the company image, dealing with lost business, and so forth. So testing is a way to reduce the overall cost of quality. And I'm going to show you a hypothetical case study of that. I'll show you a real case study a little bit later in this presentation, but we'll start with a hypothetical to illustrate the point. So for conformance costs, we're just going to look at testing. We're going to look at manual testing, automated testing, and static testing in the form of reviews. We're going to omit prevention costs.